Okay, let's explain this concept map about teaching language through literature, which can be traced to the 19th century when they translated many literary texts. Then many teaching methods appeared and literature kind of disappeared. Then it came back with strength in the 1980s and, of course, up to our current days. Some authors have reasons against the use of literature in the classroom, which I totally disagree with because it's definitely more positive than negative. But some of them say that it doesn't really help in the teaching of grammar. It doesn't help to reach academic and occupational goals, and that there's difficulty in understanding cultural viewpoints reflected in literary text. Absolutely the contrary really happens. Most authors, and definitely I agree with them, have more reasons in favor of the use of literature in the classroom because it familiarizes students with vocabulary usage and new and complex syntax, enhancing language usage and linguistic knowledge. In other words, they learn vocabulary, they learn grammar. It promotes communication because through literature we can have interesting discussions, debates, writing activities, speaking activities, so students communicate. With no doubt it's motivational because it engages them, it's fun, they really like most of the readings. It increases reading proficiency, and by doing that, we reach academic and occupational goals. So definitely it's related to academics. There are effective reasons since they relate literature to their personal life. So with no doubt, literature is a favorable thing to do in the classroom. If you want to be more specific, Maley's reasons in the year 2001, he had 7 reasons to use literature in the classroom to teach language. One was universality. Of course, there are common themes, genres, and literary conventions throughout the world. I mean, everywhere, no matter what the genre and the theme, I mean, they talk about love, they talk about power, they talk about greed. When we talk about genres, well, we have drama, we have fiction, nonfiction, and those genres exist in all cultures in the world. Non-triviality, because it offers genuine and authentic inputs. That means literature is profound. There's personal relevance, since it's easy to relate to by the learners. Students read literature, they relate the topics, the themes to their life. Literature gives us variety, since there are different styles, subject matters, and it makes it enjoyable. It's interesting, it's naturally appealing, and they even mention economy and suggestive power, since many ideas can be expressed with few words. And also ambiguity, because it allows different interpretations. Another author, Oster's Reasons in 1989, talks about using literature in the classroom and its advantages. It enlarges students' visions, fosters critical thinking, increases writing skills, and encourages creativity. Definitely, if you use literature in the classroom, it should generate a literary experience, which is like when the reader and the text the reader interacts with the text. And the literary experience will happen if the following factors are taken into account. Definitely, this is key. Choice of text. You have to choose an appropriate text. It cannot be too difficult, not too easy. It has to be challenging. You have to think about the grade level, the age level, of course, the English level. There should be nonverbal accompaniment, like images, visual aids, and very important reading environment for everyone to feel comfortable. If that happens, then we also have 2 approaches, according to Maley, to have a literary experience. This literary experience could be a critical approach, where the focus is more on literary elements. It's a little complicated, and you really have to be kind of like very knowledgeable with literature. It could be a little heavy. So usually for our students, well, we do work with literary elements and like point of view, characterization, plot, and all that. But we definitely, at least I prefer the stylistic approach. It's much more meaningful for our students because it focuses on the text and language, which is our interest. So it's more appropriate for EFL and ESL context within the communicative approach, which develops communicative competence. In my English classes at Colegio Santa Francisca Romana, Pachas, I work with a wiki called Mr. E's English Corner. This was from last year. I have a new one this year. the last period we worked The Book Thief. Beautiful story about Liesel in Nazi Germany, a young girl who stole books and to read, and that's why she was called the Book Thief. Beautiful story, and of course shows how it's really from a German point of view. And my students, it was a long book, like 500 pages. My students had to read different parts every week and send me posts, make reflections on what they read. Of course, we also saw videos on this page about the Holocaust. There was a book trailer. They made a movie, of course, of The Book Thief. Even there's an interview with Marcus Suzak, the author of The Book Thief. So we did many activities related to it. I have many links related to the book, vocabulary that they should know. But finally, the most interesting thing was what they wrote. So if we check some of the posts, or let's see one example of Laura Juliana Torres, part 10, imagine there was 10, each student wrote 10 posts, reflections on what they read. So I'm going to read what Laura Torres wrote about The Book Thief, part 10. And by doing this, you're going to see how meaningful it is to use literature in the classroom. Oh, dear Lord, I couldn't stop the tears. So much death, so much pain, so much injustice. I really felt like someone had squeezed the hell out of my heart while I read this chapter. It all began when I read that Max had been caught. That made me shake and my eyes got a little blurry. But what really made the tears fall was when Death talked about Rudy's death and said, where was Rudy's comfort? Where was someone to alleviate this robbery of his life? Who was there to soothe him as life's rug was snatched from under his sleeping feet? As soon as I finished reading that quote, I really lost it. How many lives were robbed in such a war? Not only the young ones, but all the lives from all the people, from all the ages. From the rich and the poor, from the healthy and the sick, from the happy and the sad, from everyone. It is an injustice that breaks my heart, and there is nothing we can do about it anymore. Sorry, I got a little carried away, but that is how I feel. Another thing I want to say about this chapter is that it reminds us of how we tend to take things for granted, and that we tend to keep so many things to ourselves that when we finally say them or do them, it's too late. One of the reasons of why I fear death so much is because there are so many things that I want to do, and I don't want death to suddenly stop me from doing them. So this is an invitation for me and for everyone to go ahead and do the stuff you want to do and say the stuff you want to do before it's too late. Wow, as a teacher, you read this from a student? That's what literature is in the classroom, these kind of reflections.